Welcome to another session of the SwimScape podcast. Today we have got Glyn Eason. How are you doing, Glyn?
Yeah, I'm doing great, thanks.
Good, man. So Glyn is world famous from the Taniwha swim a couple of weeks ago, and we'll have a little bit of a chat about that. And Glyn, you're going to take us through a little bit of your swim journey to date. And I think, obviously, we'd like to chat a little bit about your English channel prep and how that all's going. But maybe to kick us off, tell us about how you got into the water as a baby.
Well, firstly, kia ora koutou to all your listeners out there. And for me, my journey started, I guess, we grew up near the lake at Tarawera near Rotorua, so we're always sort of in the lake as kids, but mum and dad took us to swimming lessons when we were about 5. And then my brother and sister and I always had a love of the water, so we sort of learned to swim and then sort of started squad training, I guess, when we were 9 or 10, and then, yeah, just sort of did the school swimming sports sort of thing, and then did all the sort of national level swimming, and sort of, I was ever probably going to make the Olympics, but sort of won medals at Div 2 and then went to Opens and Nationals and sort of was probably sort of a swimmer that was sort of round about the finals or, first reserve sort of thing. So I sort of never won medals nationally, but I was always sort of reasonably handy. And then when I was sort of 14, 15, got into open water swimming. Back then, there wasn't a huge amount of events around. There was the Rotorua swim, there was the around the Mount swim, the cross Taupo swim, and around this area, that was sort of about it, really. It's nowhere near as popular as it is now back then. But yeah, I love the ocean. We're keen divers, keen spear fishermen. Mum and dad live near the beach, so we're always over there fishing and diving. And when we're in Rotorua, we've got 10 lakes within a 15-minute drive of our house, so we're sort of sport for choice, really. So there's not many days that I'm not in the ocean or the pool or the lake, really. So just love being in the water.
It's awesome, man. What was Lake Rotorua when you were a kid? What did that look like in terms of an event?
The sort of Kiwanis Club from Whakatane used to run it, and they used to have a 2.5, a 1K, a 2.5, a 7.5, a 10, and I think they used to do maybe a 15 back then. And it used to be
so it was quite a big day out.
Oh, it was a big day. It was a different swim because they used to have a sort of a buoyed course, so there wasn't. So you used to get some, because I used to like, used to sort of have guys that could beat you in the pool, but when you got in the open water, it was about sighting, and if there was a little bit of chop and you couldn't, there was no wall to turn on. As soon as the water got over your head, a lot of people used to get a little bit uncomfortable with that. So I used to like those open water swims because I sort of felt I had a bit of an advantage, and you'd beat guys that were maybe quicker in the pool. But on that swim, it was a buoyed course, so it took a lot of the navigation out. So it was more of just a flat water race, but it was an opportunity probably to do some longer distance. And it's a beautiful lake, Rotorua. It's the nicest lake in our region, so it was always a good event. And they still run it. I think they still run it.
I think it's fallen off the radar in the last 2 years or so. But yeah, certainly up until about 23, 24, it was going. I think Cheryl McLean was running it. When you were doing it as a kid, when you say it was a buoyed swim, was that the one where there were sort of buoys that sat about 1 meter under the surface and you followed a line under the water? Or was it literally just a buoy on top of the surface?
No, it was a buoy. It had a rope. So there was no real navigation. You just sort of swam alongside the rope. And I think the course was 1,500 metres. So I used to be able to do, just if you were doing a 15K, you'd obviously do 10 laps. But when I was about 17, they actually made it the New Zealand Open Water Champs, which is a funny story because there was 2 really quick guys from Tauranga. I always used to race, and they were number 1 and 2 in New Zealand for the 1,500 freestyle. And it was about 12 or 15 of us turned up, and they weren't there. And I was thinking, shit, I might actually win, like the New Zealand Open Water Champs. And then whoever's organising it said, we've got a couple of entrants that are coming, but they're a little bit late today, and we had to wait about an hour for them to turn up.
That's
And we're all on
bullshit.
our togs waiting, and then we swum, and I came third. So, and you had to come first or second to qualify for the Pan Pacific Games. So I was sort of thinking maybe we should have protested a little bit harder for them to start it on time. So, yeah.
You should have done that, Glyn, man. What were their names? Do you remember?
Yeah, one of them was Ben Scott. He was really quick. I'm just trying to think of the other guy's name. Yeah, but he went on. Yeah, he was a good swimmer. Really good swimmer. Yeah.
I wonder if they still swim today. I reckon you
Probably
could ask
not.
now.
Probably not. And that's a quite rewarding thing because you sort of come up against guys that were quicker, and then you go through the stage of raising a family and having kids and putting on about 10, 15 kilos, and then you rediscover swimming when you're in your 30s or 40s. And then you sort of line up against these guys, and I'll sort of keep training right the way through, and then you can beat them. And then you sort of think, okay, sometimes people give it away, because you have other important things that happen in your life, So, yeah.
Join SwimScape in collaboration with Mairangi Bay Surf Lifesaving Club for the Winter Swim Series. You can do a 500-meter swim for $10 or a 2,000-meter swim for $25. Come and experience the cold in a safe and controlled environment, and share some laughs and shivers after within the clubhouse for some coffee. Enter at swimscape.co.nz.
Okay. Hey, Jim, you back with us?
I am indeed, yes.
Nice. It's always nice to know that the IT guys got things under control. It's always handy and comforting.
The IT guy needs to get better equipment, I think.
Jim?
Hey, Glyn, how are you?
Really good.
Good.
All right. So we did the Taniwha with you a couple of weeks ago, which was a pretty cool experience. But now that I understand a little bit of your background, I don't feel so bad having been handed my ostomy over 3 days and 9 swims by you. I feel a lot better now. Thank you.
Yeah. No, it was a great event. Really enjoyed that. Good bunch of people and swum in some awesome pieces of water. So it was really cool.
You going to do it again?
Yeah, I think I will actually. I'm sort of quite intrigued as to where the next challenge is going to take us.
Yeah, so obviously we learned some lessons, Glyn, with our swim experience with you over the last Origin series. So what we're planning on doing is obviously new routes. Every year it needs to be a little bit different. But what's important is that we've got a plan B, because I think weather can roll in. Just travel times might be overestimated, underestimated. So we've probably got an A plan, but we've also got a little bit of a B plan that we'll be able to switch over to should we need to. So yeah, but I think we've got some really good options. We've already got 2 Aussie swimmers that have entered as well, which I'm quite chuffed about. They're making a trip from Aussie, and they're going to make a bit of a holiday of it. Both of them are women, and both of them have got their husbands sort of driving vans and doing all of the looking after, which I thought was quite nice. And they were both quite keen to be amongst the first women to complete the Taniwha. So I think we'll need to raise the game a little bit, Glyn.
No, that sounds really good.
I'm relying on you, man.
Oh, have the entries already opened, or?
Yep, entries are open.
Oh, cool. And what month are you running it?
We're going to do it in March, 17th, 18th, and 19th of March. A little bit warmer on the water side, and B, before daylight savings kicks in. So we'll get an extra couple of daylight hours. I think we were really at a disadvantage with our trip trying to do it, sort of mid-April with very little sunlight hours.
Yeah. Well, that sounds great. All the days were getting a little bit shorter, particularly on one of those days where we did the Mount swim and then the Blue Lake. And then we ended up in Taupo and it was getting, it was after dark, really.
Yes. That was an interesting day, hey?
Yeah. Yeah. Challenging day.
That Mount swim was interesting, right? I mean, we lined up in Pilot Bay. It was pretty flat. It looked pretty calm. We knew the wind was blowing on the other side. I just don't think we knew to what extent it was blowing at. But yeah, that was a challenging day. Do you want to maybe share some thoughts?
Yeah, well, that was the Mount swim. So the plan was to swim from Pilot Bay around the Mount and then into the main Mount beach. It's a really iconic swim in the Bay of Plenty. So that day Jim got the IRB out and I sort of thought, this might be a bit of an overkill because I sort of go around there probably at least once a month and I've never really, it's pretty straightforward sort of swim. You sort of time it with the tide. So if the tide's going out, you start on Pilot Bay side, so you get a bit of assistance going out and then you swim around into the main beach. And if the tide's coming on an inward tide, you start at the main beach, come around the Mount and you get a little bit of assistance coming through because it's really hard to swim against tide. So we made it around and it was nice and flat. And then when we got round to sort of the tip of the Mount, you can go through, there's 2 gaps to go through. The first gap, since there was quite a bit of swell, we thought, we won't go through there, we'll go through the second gap. But we were just sort of swimming away there for maybe 10 minutes and we just weren't making any progress because it was an unusual phenomenon because the tide was going out and usually it whips you around through that gap, but this is the first time we'd experienced that. So we're swimming away, so we thought, we'll have another go. We couldn't get through the middle gap, so we thought we'll go around the outside, the main rocks. We'll go right around the outside where the little lighthouse is there. So we started going around there, but we just couldn't get around. So I couldn't figure it out because the tide was going out. It should have just been whipping us around, but the current was coming towards us. So yeah, we just sort of kept trying to carry on around, and then we decided, after probably, this swim really takes about 50 minutes, and after about an hour and a half, and we'd already swum about 4 Ks, and the swim right around the Mount's only 3.5. So we sort of thought, safety first, maybe we should put one person at a time in the IRB and take them around to the main beach and drop them off and they can sort of swim in. So we did that. We took 3 people around there and there was just Craig and Matt and myself left in the water, and at that point sort of the current must have eased a bit and we managed to swim into the first gap and we went through the gap, and then sort of had a little bit of a rest there and had a couple of gels. And then by that stage, our man in the boat had come out of the main beach and gone out to the tip of the rocks of the Mount there, and he was searching around for us but couldn't find us. And we were in the gap, and so we climbed out of the rocks and we had our tow floats. We were waving our tow floats to him because I can imagine the feeling he had, that maybe he'd lost the swimmers, and he was doing big circles and going out. And by this stage he was about 2 Ks off the actual the Mount themselves, and we couldn't get his attention. And then you might be able to talk through this because you raised the alarm, but the IRB, the Surf Lifesavers, shot out there, and then they came to us and we said, we're fine, but our man in the boat's way out there looking for us, and I suspect he's probably a little bit worried because this has been going on for about 15 minutes. So he shot out there in the IRB and let him know, and was very relieved. And then we jumped in the water and finished the swim, and when we came up the beach, and it was sort of hugs and high fives all round. Really, it must have been a bit of a relief. It certainly wouldn't have been a good start for the Taniwha to have 3 swimmers go missing,
or some non-finishers. Yeah. For us, Glyn, a real interesting morning, right? Because to your point, I don't think, has that ever happened to you before on that swim?
Never. And I've spoken to the guys. I'm doing that swim tomorrow in the reverse, so we'll do it from the Mount and then go out around some islands and then go into Pilot Bay to finish. But I talked to 3 or 4 of the guys there that swim at least 3 times a week, and they've never experienced that. Outgoing tide will push you around the rocks, and an incoming tide will push you around from the opposite side. Never had that before. So it just must have been a phenomenon where the water was coming out and then circling around through that gap and back in our faces. It was strange, but hey, you're out there battling the elements against Tangaroa, and sometimes, things don't go to plan, I guess. So really glad we had the IRB that day, and safety first, and just having that sort of that plan in place has made the difference, really, I think.
Yeah, I think the Taniwha came to visit us, to be honest.
I think one of the things I really enjoyed from that swim was, things weren't going our way, but the calmness of everybody involved was pretty impressive. There wasn't any panic or concern. It was, oh, okay, that's not working. What's the next piece? So, yeah, that's one of the things I sort of took away from that. Everyone knew that we'd all sorted out one way or another. It's just had to find the right way to do it.
I mean, it's a good point, and even though Jim and Duncan, you organised the Taniwha, and you were, meant to be sort of guiding us through all these swims, I sort of felt a bit of responsibility on that one, because it's a swim that I do regularly, and I sort of felt that when things weren't going that well, that it was sort of a bit of my responsibility to try and find a solution potentially. But we did that as a group, really. But you're right, because if we had someone panicking in the group, it would have made things a lot harder. And it's just shows you how, if you can keep calm, it can make the difference. But it can do also, it can go pretty pear-shaped quickly if you got someone that panics, and it would have made it a lot more difficult.
100%. Hey team, SwimScape offers Auckland Triple Crown, which consists of 3 swims. The SETI Triangle, which is a beginner's 14-kilometer swim. Then there's the Rangitoto, iconic 20-kilometer swim around the Rangitoto volcano. And to round it up, there's the Tiri to Waiheke swim of 24 kilometers. Sign up and book your slots.
We did that one, and we went down to the Blue Lake in Rotorua. That looked like a pretty nice swim, that one, because that's right on your back doorstep, isn't it?
Yeah, that's sort of our my sort of regular on the weekend, the Blue Lake. But it was quite unique that day, because by the time we got down there, because the mount swim took a bit longer than we thought. Typically, we've got a swimming lane on the right-hand side. We've got buoys all the way down the lake, and we swim down the lake and then back, because there's a ski lane on the left-hand side, and you're not allowed to swim over there. But that day, it was a bit dark and gloomy. There was probably 2 hours to go before dark. There was no one else on the lake, so we actually did a loop of the lake, which is around about 5K. So we did a total loop of the lake. And the lake at that point, it was 16.8 or 17 degrees, but it felt a little bit cooler because the ocean was 20 and a half. So it was a little bit cooler. It was getting towards dark, but it was nice and flat. And it was sort of a good way to finish the day after the swim in the morning, really. Yeah.
Yeah. I still remember, because I ended up taking off before you guys had finished. We left Les with you, and I had to go down to Taupo to try to set up the next swim, but it was dark and raining, and I was really in 2 minds about this. And after our mount swim, eventually I came to the conclusion that maybe it was just a little bit silly to take a whole bunch of swimmers out into the middle of the lake when it was dark and blowing and raining. So I gave you the night off.
Yeah, that's right. It was a good call, because it was very windy out there on the lake Taupo, and we did the Taupo swim in the morning when it was just over 16 degrees, so it was a little bit cooler. So I think probably everyone sort of felt that, after what had happened in the morning, we got a good swim in at the Blue Lake. It was probably a good thing to save that swim till the next morning.
Yeah, you guys did a good swim the next morning, because it was a a pretty long one all the way around from Acacia Bay, around the edge of the lake and back to 2 Mile Bay. So that was a good swim. I was kind of supporting you guys on the IRB. That the challenge was for me that there was a clear disparity in speed between some of the swimmers, and I was zooming from one side of the lake back just to make sure that I was giving everybody something to drink every now and then.
Yeah, that's right. And it was, I remember when we jumped into that one, because at that stage it was right at the end of summer and it's 16 degrees. So if anyone from Wellington's listening, they probably think we're a bit soft because they probably swim in under 10 degrees. But at that point, dipping your toes in the water was sort of just on 16, and it was early in the morning, and we were thinking, oh God, there's so many places we'd rather be, but that's why we do it. You jump in and you're away, and we all had tow floats, which was really good. So Jim, you could keep an eye on us and keep us fed. But that was a good swim, that one. It's a beautiful lake, Taupo. It's nice and clear, and went along that Acacia Bay side around, and I remember when we were swimming along there where the golf driving places, I was looking down thinking, shoot, there's quite a few golf balls here. I might have to swim out a little bit wider because I must have been in the firing line. I was thinking there'll be some cheeky bugger up there that's going to see a swimmer and you got a golf club and a ball. What are you going to do? You're going to try and hit them, eh? So I sort of thought I'd better swim out a little bit and then get a little bit wider. So, but that was
although having said that, I think that if they were aiming at you, you'd probably be safer.
Yeah, it's That swim was about 9 Ks, I think. So it was a good swim.
Yeah, that was a good. Yeah. Glyn, what other long swims have you done in the last couple of years?
In 2023, I swam across Cook Strait with Phil Rush and Gronye Moss, who's a well-known open water swimmer in New Zealand. She was my feeder, so I got to know Gronye quite well. She used to come up sort of once a year and swim in Rotorua for a week, and she used to train with us. So whenever I go down to Wellington, I always try and catch up with her and go for a swim. And I had managed to get across there, and then I usually swim the New Zealand Ocean Swim Series, do at least 4 or 5 of those swims. But after I did Cook Strait, I sort of didn't really do a huge amount of swimming. I still trained sort of 2 or 3 days a week, but I sort of took on a couple other challenges, did a half marathon and some other stuff. I just wanted to have a challenge outside the water, because when you do a challenge like that, it just consumes you just emotionally and physically. So just the preparation for it, and it's a big undertaking, and I like to do things properly. So it consumes your thoughts and it consumes your life. And every weekend you're training during the week, and all you're talking about is feeding plans and training and recovery, and it just consumes you. So it's just nice to have a break and do something a little bit different. So yeah.
What does an average week of training look like for you?
At the moment, I'm got a bigger swim coming up, and at the end of August. So I'm doing I've just done a block of, I did 4 40k weeks and 1 50k week, and then I've just had I did a trial taper week just to see how it would feel. So I only did 10Ks last week, and then this week I'm doing a 40, and then I'll do 3 50s in a row, and then I'll do a taper. But after my taper week, I feel like absolute crap. I don't know if any of your listeners out there have experienced it, but how it's supposed to work is you do big mileage, you have a nice taper, and then you feel absolutely amazing. But for me, tapers never worked for me. I just, in my taper week, I did a couple of days off, and then a 3.5k, then a couple of days, then a 3k, and then a couple of days and a 3k, and then I had a couple of days off and thought I'd feel great, but I just feel, really stiff and lethargic and tired. And I've learned that really you've done a lot of work and you've got to give your body a little bit of a rest, but you sort of really need to keep active and keep your mileage up. But that's for Phil. He was always recommended to me, for those bigger straight swims, you do all your build up, and then you want to accumulate your mileage, and then do 3 50k weeks. And one of those weeks, you do maybe a 6-hour swim, and then you prep So I had to do a qualifying swim because the swim I'm doing in end of August is the English Channel. So I had to do a 6-hour qualifying swim in under 16 degrees. For that, you have to do within 6 months or a year of your swim. I think it's 6 months. So I did that off the mount about 3 weeks ago. I've been waiting for the water to get cool enough because it's been sort of 18, 17, and now it's about 14 and a half now, but it was 15.6 when I did and I did 6 hours 20. That was about 3 weeks ago. So, and that felt pretty good. I never felt cold or anything, and the feeding went well, and so I sort of feel like my prep's going okay.
Where did you go on your 6 hour at the mount? Did you just go sort of round and round in circles or up and down? What was the plan?
Well, we do a swim off there. I swim with a group called the Ocean Seamen, and we've got a swim we call the Sea Monster, and typically you leave out of the main beach of the mount, depending on what way the tide's running, and you'll go around to the right, go around the islands, out to the right, Rabbit Island and those islands, and then you come back, go around the mount into Pilot Bay, and that's 7 Ks, and it usually takes, because you sort of stop every sort of 15 minutes and just make sure everyone's together, and then you carry on, and you might have a gel or something, so that takes typically between an hour 45 and 2 hours. So we did a double Sea Monster, which is 14 Ks, and then I just carried on for another sort of couple of hours just to top up the mileage a bit. Felt pretty good. And then the previous day I did a 10K swim in the Blue Lake, and it was only 13.2 degrees, and that was about 2 hours 40. And I got a bit cold during that, and a funny story, I actually walked up the beach and I'd done my swim, and I saw someone on the beach I knew, and they were chatting away to me, and they said, "Oh, you better go and get dressed and get warm." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went over to the ute and I was getting dried, and then they actually drove over and said, "Oh, you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, no, I'm feeling okay. A little bit cold, but not too bad." They said, "Oh, because when I was talking to you on the beach, I couldn't even understand what you were saying. You were just talking like garbage, and I didn't really realise, but you got to be a little bit careful, obviously got quite cold, and I couldn't even put my socks on, and then I got home and I sat in front of the fire for about 2 hours and sort of slowly warmed myself up. It was just over 13 degrees. So I guess since I'm training in our winter, it's sort of the water's at the lake now, it's probably 11, so it's getting probably a little bit cold to do long swims. So the bulk of my work I'm doing in the pool. And that's really good for keeping your speed up and doing your intervals, as opposed to just slogging away in open water. So, yeah.
That's a bit scary, dude. You need to be careful.
Yeah, I mean, typically when I'm by myself, because I can't find anyone else crazy enough to jump in when it's that cold, I'll have my tow float, and then I have my watch, and I've got that running, and I just sort of check it every 5 minutes, and I read the time out to myself, and I try and stay near the edge of the lake, so I might be, within 100 meters, so if you get a little bit cold, you can sort of just swim to the side and then walk back. But I got a really good tip off someone the other day. He's an ex-SAS guy, and he's done a lot of work in the snow. He's not a swimmer, but he said, when you have a pee, because the only thing keeping you warm in the water is keeping your feeds warm, and you got to keep moving. And he gave me a really good tip. He said, when you have a pee, you never want to empty your bladder, because your bladder is like your hot water bottle. You only want to pee half of your bladder out, and then you want to keep the rest in, and then you rehydrate, warms yourself up a little, and then so you never empty your bladder. And I noticed that day, before he told me that, because it's a bit of a skill trying to pee and keep swimming at the same time. And then you naturally just empty your bladder, and then about 10 minutes later I got really cold, and then so when he was telling me this, I sort of reflected on what had happened, and I thought, hey, that's a really good tip,
Yes, that's the first I've heard of that, but it makes a lot of sense, eh?
It does, because I mean, you know what it's like. You have it's because your pee is warm. And I mean, it was Phil Rush had always said to me, it's really handy because you got to keep your feeds real quick. If you can pee and swim at the same time, And when I actually did Cook Strait, I drank about 2 litres of water on the way out there on the boat because you drive around to where you start. And I was thinking, before I hopped in the water, I was just so busting I could hardly even walk on the boat. I was walking over to get in. I was so busting, but I thought this is going to be great. I'm going to get in the water, start swimming, have a pee, and get my liver working, and everything will be going. Well, after about 2 hours, Phil was saying, "Have you had a pee yet?" And I said, "No, I can't pee. I was busting, but I can't pee." And he said, "Yeah, you got it at some point because." And then after that, it sort of started. But it's funny because he said, men struggle to pee in cold water, but women, it's no problem, So he always asks guys, have you had a pee yet? Because you got to make sure, you're getting your fluids on, but your liver's working well, and all the systems are working. Mm.
I wonder why there's a difference between men and women in that scenario.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but
Okay.
The way we're built, I think.
Dust off the cobwebs on Saturday the 28th of November with our annual 1201 mile charity swim event at Waiheke Beach Torbay. This year we will be partnering up with the unbelievable team at Kenzie's Gift, which supports the mental health of tamariki navigating the death of a parent or sibling, or serious illness in their whānau. We will swim 1 mile on the hour every hour from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m, covering 19.2 kilometers in total. Come and swim one or as many as you want for a great cause. Entries will open from August on swimscape.co.nz.
Okay, so English Channel, here we come.
Yeah, no, I'm reluctant to say much about it before I've actually done it because I usually like to finish things first and then talk about them. But it's not a swim I ever sort of sat down and thought, hey, I want to do this, But my daughter's currently over in London and we visited her last year, and I was down in Brighton, which is south of Dover, and looking across, you can't see France here because it's about 65 k's. But I sort of looked out there and thought, that I really want to swim that, and I dipped my toes in the water and said kia ora to Tangaroa there and thought, I'm coming back and I'm going to swim this. So I booked in. Obviously, it's quite an iconic swim, so it's quite hard to get a booking, but there's multiple operators there, so it's a lot easier than say somewhere like Cook Strait because there's more operators. But it's such an iconic swim. You've got so many people wanting to do it, so you've still got to sort of book in at least a year in advance. Heading over there, I've got a tide slot in the first week of September, which September's a good month because the water's at its warmest, but the days are getting a little bit shorter. So the advantage is the water's going to be a little bit warmer potentially. They think between 15 and 17 degrees, but the disadvantage is you're probably going to be swimming at least half of it in the dark, either at night or in the morning because the days are getting shorter then. But they've had a bit of a heat wave over there, so I'm praying that the water might be a little bit warmer. So, yeah.
Glyn, have you done much swimming in the dark?
I haven't done a lot. It does, to be honest, it doesn't really worry me. But yeah, at the moment, I've sort of been going out to the lake for the last month since it's quite cold. I've been going sort of around the middle of the day when there's a little bit of sun up. And I'd like to do a bit more swimming at night before I head over. But I can't see there's going to be huge opportunity because you can go at night at the pool, but the lights are on. So yeah. It'll be a little bit different. They've got lights on the boat and everything. And it's I don't know if you guys have ever done a lot of swimming at night, but
So the one challenge that you just need to sort of look out for is I've had a mate of mine go over a couple of years ago, super strong, super fit, really ready for the channel. But they had to be taken out after about 2 hours because they were just seasick and motion sickness. And the reason that he explained to me was when the light's up, you've got a point of reference with regards to looking at the horizon, and you sort of manage your I don't know what the word is, but your positioning. You sort of know where you're at. And at night, because you've got no point of reference, he was getting seasick. So
that's interesting.
There is a little bit of, I think, getting used to. I mean, yes, you've got the lights on the boat as a reference point, but certainly I would do at least a couple of swims in the dark, just to sort of acclimatize to that, if that makes any sense. Because potentially you're going to start at like 2:00 in the morning, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I guess it's also, when you're open water swimming during the day, you can you have a feel of the water, but and the way the ocean's moving, but you can anticipate if there's a wind coming at you when a wave's going to hit you. But at night you probably don't have that. But I guess it's it's good advice, and I'm certainly going to do that. Because for these bigger channel swims, I think you've just got to have a plan for all of the things that can happen. You could get seasick, so you got to have a plan for that. If your feeding's not working well on the day, you got to have a plan for that. If you get cramp, if you get stung by a jellyfish, you've just got to prepare yourself for anything that can happen and have a plan, I guess, because you could be prepared as well as you think you are, but it can go out the window pretty quickly, because on those longer swims, I find that, even though things are going well, you're going to have highs and lows, and it's just a matter of battling through them and just getting to the next feed and staying positive, because it's a long time in the water and your mind plays tricks on you. And when I was halfway through Crosscock Strait, I thought, shit, am I going to be able to do this, And then I had a big pot of those little Hector's dolphins turned up, swimming all around me, and I thought, oh, that's a good sign. That was sort of my kaitiaki for the swim. And then you just keep chug it away, and then you sort of can start to see land and think, hey, I'm going to get there, but your mind plays tricks on you,
Yeah. What do you reckon's more difficult, the training, building up to a big swim, or the swim itself?
I think it's the training. It's the accumulated fatigue. When you're doing, 50 or even 40 plus weeks, and then it's every week, you just never get a break. You're always tired. You wake up, you go to bed tired, you wake up tired, and then you got a 10K session, and then it's the same again the next day. It's just accumulated fatigue, but on the day, I guess you're a little bit nervous in that, but it's just that's what I found. The swim itself wasn't, like I'd been a lot more tired in the build-up, I guess. Yeah. And there's not many ways to get around that. You can do a bit of massage and that sort of thing, but yeah. And as you get a bit older, I guess you got to manage your body in different ways. Like some people aren't even doing that sort of mileage. You just can't sustain it. That's probably the hardest part, and just getting nutrition right, like recovering well. After your swims, and eating well, and doing whatever you can to try and help your body recover. Yeah.
Look, I'm never going to be in that situation where I'm managing fatigue like that on a weekly basis, because I can't get to that mileage. I'm quite happy to tick over at like 20, 25, but anything more than that, I just find everything breaks down, right? So like you say, you're balancing life and kids and traffic jams and work. And I mean, what's the impact on the rest of your life? You're popping off to the lake to swim at lunchtime, so business must be good.
Yeah, generally my week will look I'd sort of try and do, like I'll do maybe a 5 on a Monday, and then a Tuesday I'll do a 7 in the pool, then a 3 that night, and then do a 5 the following day, then a 7 in the morning, 3 that night. So you're going into the weekend with maybe 35 Ks under your belt.
Gotcha.
And then you might do a longer swim on a Saturday. So I'll build my Saturdays, I'll do like a 10, and the next week I'll do like a 13 or a 14, then maybe a 16 or 18, and then you might do a 20, and then you have your taper week, and then you have your swim. So I try and, so I've got a busy job. So, and I find that if you're a little bit stressed at work, or there's a lot happening at work, it affects your recovery as well. You don't think that, because one thing, you're always focused on preparing for these challenges from a physical perspective, but you never think about the mental toll it takes on you. And that's a key thing. I think you do have to prepare yourself mentally, because that's one thing I've learned. You just think it's all about your body, but when you've done the hard work, and when you jump into that ocean on that day, it's all what's happening in your head. So, but outside of that, my wife, she's Susan, she's very supportive. Leading up to Cook Strait, I remember her saying, you know, oh, geez, I hope you get the swim done, because I'm just bloody sick of hearing about it. Because every day it was talking about feed plans, training, recovery, you know, so your partner just gets sick of hearing about all the stuff, because you're always throwing ideas off them and talking about how things are going, you know. So, yeah, and my kids had left home by then, so yeah, it's certainly, I think, juggling a young family and a job, it would certainly make it a little bit harder. So I guess, but yeah, generally I guess a lot of people are getting into ocean water swimming a little bit later, you know. Maybe that's one of the reasons, because you got more time.
Yeah, potentially that's a good view.
And it's quite social. Yeah, it's very social. Like, I was in Wellington, trained with Phil's squad. Phil wasn't actually there, but about 5 weeks ago, trained with Grenier, and they got a great setup there. You know, at Oriental Bay, you swim in the pool there, and then you just walk out in your togs and jump in the ocean. It was a bit of a shock, because it was about 12.9 degrees, but there's a little coffee cart there, but there would have been at least 50 or 60 swimmers swimming in Oriental Bay, and then coming in, rugging up, sitting around talking, having a coffee. It's quite social, open water swimming. It doesn't have the intensity that pool swimming does. I think it just attracts a different sort of person. It's really supportive, really social. Yeah.
Yeah, great bunch of people down in Wellington, hey, or just the swimming community in general. But that Oriental Bay, I think the washing machines is what they call themselves, right? There's some really cool people there.
Take on the ultimate challenge with a solo 20-kilometer swim around the iconic Rangitoto Island. This demanding marathon swim is supported by a dedicated safety crew, official observer, GPS tracking, and photography, with swim dates selected within the best weather windows. Suitable for both wetsuits and skins swimmers, this is one of New Zealand's toughest open water achievements, with only a handful of successful solo completions. Contact us at swimscape.co.nz to discuss your booking options.
Who's going to second you at the English Channel?
Who's doing the
seconding?
Oh, so my feeding?
Yes.
My wife Susan is, and my daughter Maya will be there as well.
No.
So yeah, that'll be good. We've done a little bit of training together. Susan, a little bit of feeding off the kayak, and I'm going with Mike Oram. He's my pilot over there. So yeah. That should be good. I know when I did Cook Strait, Phil wasn't a fan of having someone like a direct spouse or as your feeder, because you got that emotional connection, and if you're having a bad day, you know, they might say, oh, come on honey, it's all right, just get out, whereas you really want someone cracking the whip, you know, so you don't want someone too connected. And I'd quite like that, but just traveling together, it's really logical to have someone to have Sue's feeding for me. Yeah, so
dude, I'm sure you're going to smash it, man. I'm really not. I'm not expecting any sweat to be broken from your side.
Oh, here's hoping.
Well, I don't think you do a lot of sweating in cold water anyway.
Do you do like any other stuff? Do you do gym or stretching or anything in particular for your mental prep? Like, how do you handle that side of things?
I've always been a poor stretcher. I don't stretch a lot. I might, probably maybe I do probably 2 or 3 minutes before I go to the pool in the morning, just deck down on the carpet, do a little bit of stretching for the shoulders and lower back. I've got a little gym at home, which I used a little bit about 3 or 4 months ago, but I don't generally do any at the moment when I've got a heavy sort of load in the water, because I just can't, you just can't recover. So, and that was more sort of low weight, high rep type stuff. And I was doing a little bit of jogging, bit of cross training, but at the moment it's just swimming.
Yeah, that's cool, man. What's still on the bucket list?
I'm not sure. I mean, after Cook Strait, I thought that's me, one and done. I've always wanted to swim it. I went across on a ferry when I was about 16, and I looked at it and I thought, I really want to swim this. So I was always had a goal to do that, and I never really had a passion to do another one. And then I sort of thought, well, I'd like to do the English Channel. I mean, you hear about, Grenadiers just finished the Ocean 7. There's always that in the background, but not too sure. I'll get this one out of the way first and then go from there, I guess.
Yeah, that's
so
probably
Glyn, one of the things that you did recently, you were a little bit involved with Jono's great swim down the east coast of the North Island.
Yeah, I got I know Jono reasonably well. We sort of caught up a couple of times over the last 2 years, just about, Jono's a really good guy to sort of throw ideas with. He's quite an analytical sort of guy, I find. So he knows a lot about feeding, and he'd done Cook Strait a couple of years before me, so it gave me a little bit of advice and about training and feeding and that sort of thing. So when I found out he was doing that swim, I thought, that's awesome. It'd be really cool to just be a little part of that and help out where I can. So I just sort of messaged him, and he said, yeah, when I get down to the Bay of Plenty, I'll give you a yell and see if it's okay if you jump in for a swim, So when he was down at Pukehina, where my parents live, we shot over and saw them and organised to jump in with them for the next day. So Susan came down on the four-wheeler and drove down the beach and dropped me off, and I jumped on the boat and headed out. And Andy Chuk was driving the boat and jumped in with Jono, and then he did a 5-hour swim that morning, and I swam for 3 hours, because you can only do an hour in the water with him, and then you got to hop out for an hour. You got to hop in for an hour, and then so I swam the first hour, the third hour, and the last hour. And then I sort of said good luck and thanks for the opportunity, and then headed back to work. And then a couple of days later, Andy rang me and said, oh, hey, someone's leaving the crew for a few days, so you can jump in with us for I think it was about 6 days. So I said, yeah, that'd be awesome. Boss was away at the time, so it was pretty easy. Sign off my own leave. And then so jumped in with them sort of around at just past Whakatane. And then that's sort of a part of the area that I'm sort of real passionate about, that Whakatane, Portiki, Tikaha, Waiho Bay, that sort of coastline, because I've done a lot of spearfishing and diving there as I was growing up, and we still go down there regularly. And some of my wife's whānau's from down that way as well. So, I did sort of that leg from sort of Whakatane or Portiki down sort of to past Tikaha. Just jumped in and swam. I think we had 1 day out of the water, but swam most days, and that was cool. Yeah, great crew and awesome cause, and just seeing at the end of the day, how Jono recovered, and because that's sort of what blew me away, how you can do that much mileage just day after day. But he manages his body really well, his recovery really well, and had a really good crew around him, with all the meals done and everything. So it was pretty cool. Every time we pulled into a beach at the end of the day, there'd be a few of the locals will come out, and they'll be all coming up and saying, oh, how's the swimming going? And I'll be like, oh, no, well, I'm not actually the swimmer. He's the swimmer. So they'd run over there and chat to him, because they'd see me in my togs, but I said, no, I'm just helping out. And met heaps of great locals, and it's sort of a part of the coast down there that the population's really low. So it wasn't like, up around Auckland and when he was coming through there. So often, there was smaller groups, but everyone was just fascinated by the journey him and his crew were on. So it was, really good to see the support he was getting. And great that he finished, and I had no doubt he was ever going to finish, but it's always good to get it done,
Yeah, he did really good on that swim. Absolutely, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I'm going to look out for your entry at the Taniwha. And if you need any assistance with some swimming in the next month, please track us down. Come and join us for a couple of long swims up here, or we'll come and join you at the lake. But our thoughts are with you. Kick some ass, and let's plan a catch-up chat in a couple of months' time, and we can talk about your swim.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks for the opportunity, and we'll hopefully get it done, and chat to you again soon.
All the best, Glyn. Thanks very much, mate.
Thanks, guys.
Fantastic.
Cheers,
Thanks,
Jim,
Glyn.
Duncan.
Cheers.
Hi, my name is Caitlin O'Reilly. I'm the youngest person to have completed the Ocean 7 Challenge. If this really cool podcast has helped you learn something new, maybe it's introduced you to new swimmers, made you smile, then please take the opportunity to subscribe to Duncan and Jim's channel. I'm sure they would absolutely appreciate all your support. Cheers.
Thanks, Caitlin. As always, you can give us feedback on our Instagram account at SwimScape Adventures, or send us an email at info@swimscape.co.nz. We'll always appreciate hearing from you. Anyway, we'll speak to you sometime soon.